this is us. Yeah. Now I should be able to see comments as well. Okay. So the things I'm going to use today are from the You're a Peach suite. And just until we get a few more people watching, I'm going to show you the suite in the catalogue. I won't start my stamps on my cards yet. I'm going to show you one here. And it's a suite in the new annual catalogue. And it's on page 60. So here we are. This is the actual suite. And I bought the suite collection, which has the stamps, the dies, and the little jars. And I bought the designer series paper, but that's available separately. And let me just find which page that is on. 134. Okay, and it's this paper that's up here. And it says it coordinates Balmy Blue, Bumblebee, Calypso Coral, Early Espresso, Mango Melody, Pale Papaya, Pear Pizzazz and Petal Pink. So that's the whole suite that I'm going to be using. And first of all, I should show you the designer series paper because this is really pretty. And I've used a little bit. I've got some cut just ready to show you on my cards. But I just love the colours on here. And as you know, Stampin' Up! Colours, they always coordinate. So if you've got the Pale Papaya or the Calypso Coral or even the Balmy Blue, you know it's going to work with this paper. Stampin' Up! Do an amazing job of making everything coordinate. And when I first started stamping, I was in the States and I happened to see like a little stall in one of the malls and they had some rubber stamps and the lady said, oh, come and have a go. And really, I hadn't stamped anything apart from with those little wooden stamps that you get as children. So I went and she taught me how to emboss and she taught me how to cut paper and I was hooked. So then I used to buy things from all different places. I would buy a stamp set here, some ink there, and really nothing ever matched. I used to sit for ages trying to find a paper that would go with the cardstock I had. But with Stampin' Up! Things, it made it so much easier because you know everything is going to work together. So, just pretty, pretty. So that's the paper that we will be using. And I'll show you a little bit about that later on as well. But my first project is inspired by this card. Now this card I made back in February, I think, January, February time. And it was with the Fine Art Floral Art Gallery stamps. And I made this as one of my swap cards for a team of demonstrators that I belong to. And it's a really easy layout, but it's one that I really like. You can make it go landscape, you can have it portrait, whatever works for you. And whatever the picture is, if it's more of a landscape picture, then you have it this way. So I'm going to recreate this really easy card, but I'm going to use our new peach suite. And I've cut a couple of little pieces ready. I've got a piece of Calypso Coral, cut at 4 1/4 by 11 and scored at 5 1/2. And I've got some designer series paper already cut, and this is from this piece. Now when I cut my designer series paper, I always cut a 4-inch strip off, and that way I get 3 4-inch strips. And then if you cut it across, these pieces are just a little bit more than you need for like a base layer. So you're not wasting anything. You can get 6 really nice card fronts from a piece like this. So I've got this for my layer, which is like this paper here. I've got the little white piece made from the Stitched So Sweetly dies. So I've got that already cut out as well. And I've got a little accent piece also in Calypso Coral. On this one, you can see I took an accent colour from the Designer Series paper, but on here, I'm using the same as the base card. Oh, hi Jane, hi. I'm so glad you're there. I've been talking to myself for the last 5 minutes, but for the first 5 minutes, I couldn't get the camera to work. So it's just so nice that you've said hello and I know you're there and I know that Facebook's working. Thank you, thank you. Okay, so let me show you what we're going to stamp. I've got a piece of scrap card and I've already got my stamps mounted on blocks, and they're photopolymer stamps in this set, which means that you can see through them and you can position them on paper much easier. Now let me find the stamp set. I'm using this stamp, and when you first look at it, it looks like it's 3 different stamps, but it's one big stamp with all the leaves, and I'm going to use this little stamp with the 3 peaches on. And I've got my inks already. I've got Calypso Coral, I've got Pear Pizzazz, and I've got Pale Papaya. And I want to show you something that I saw in the catalogue that was a really good tip. But I'm going to stamp the images first and then show you what the tip is. So this is just for demonstration. It's not for my card, it's just to show you. So the Pear Pizzazz, I'm going to ink up the leaves. Oops. Stamp it on. Okay, now if you don't want it quite as dark as that, of course you can stamp off onto a piece of paper first and then stamp onto your card. But I'm leaving mine quite dark. And then I've got my Pale Papaya. And this stamp set is one of those distinctive ink sets, which means you get all different shades. So you can have it darker and lighter without having to change your ink pad or stamp over. It will give you quite a nice range of shades. And to stamp it up and to line it up, let me just get excuse my reach while I just get my pokey tool. Whoops, sorry. Didn't mean to make you seasick there. And you see just under here, there's that little dints, and that's where you line it up on these 3 little stems. So it makes it really easy once you can see where they are. Okay, so there we are. That's how they stamp up. And can you see those differences in colour? Well, I really liked that, and I was happy with it until I reread the catalogue. And up here, there's a tip that says, add shading to the image by inking a stamp, then adding ink in a darker colour with a sponge dauber on the edges. So, you know me, I thought, right, I'll have a go at that. So I'm going back to my Pear Pizzazz. I'm going to stamp another one here. So, here's my leaves, just the same. Let's close that up. I got, whoops, excuse me while I just pick that stamp up, wherever I threw it. Oh, you might know it's gone right under the back of the desk. Oh, I'm back. It's going to be one of those evenings. Oh dear, Jane. Oh, you were chatting with your granddaughter? That's so nice. Oh, how can she be 5.5 months old already? You only just put pictures up and she was a baby. Oh, they grow so fast. Okay, so I've got my Pale Papaya again. And I'm going to do just the same. I'm going to just dab it in the Pale Papaya, and then I'm going to open my Calypso Coral. And it says that you can stamp, what did it say? Add ink in a darker colour on the edges. So I've got my little sponge dauber, and I'm going to go around the peach just at the edges, and I'm just going to add a little bit of colour. And it doesn't show up very much on the stamp. So when I was doing it first, I thought, well, I don't know if that's going to make any difference at all. But when you stamp it, so I'm lining those little spaces up with the leaves. But when you stamp it, look how beautiful that is. I just loved it. And then I stamped about 18 pieces of card just to see different colours. But it really jumps out at you, and it's so much prettier. So that's what I'm going to do for the front of my card. And so I'm taking that little white piece that I had there, and I'm going to put the same little stamped image on that we just made. So I've gone back to my Pear Pizzazz. Yeah, it makes a difference, doesn't it, Jane? I'm going to stamp this. I'm not going to put it right at the top. I'm just going to put it down a little bit. Yeah. And you don't have to line it up really square or anything. It comes out really nice however you do it. So I'm just, let's find a little piece of scrap paper here. I just want to clean this off. I'll actually clean it on my cloth, just in case it gets any of the darker colour ink on the pale papaya ink. Okay, so I'm just going to get that. I'm going to open my Calypso Coral again. And let's just put that darker bit. You just have to dab it, and you can barely see that it's there, but you know it is there. Okay. So how was work, Jane? So yeah, ink on top of the ink. So you've got your pale papaya already on there, then your Calypso Coral, just ink over the top. You don't rub any off or anything. So the darker ink is sitting on top of the light ink. Oh, I like that one even more, look. I put a bit more on. Look, it's even darker. So pretty. I really do like this. And it was only because it said in the catalogue, and you know there's always loads of tips in the catalogue, but sometimes we just forget to have a look. And then for my sentiment, I've chosen this one, the thanks so much, and I've already got it on my little clear block. And let's find my memento. And I'm just going to stamp that right at the bottom. Just line it up a little bit. There we go. I love that font. I don't know what it's called, but it's really nice. I like the Happy Birthday one. I think that's really good. And of course, there's all these little ones as well that you can add in, but it is a very pretty font. Okay, so I'm going to leave that to dry for a few minutes. And I wonder, let's just stamp up the inside. This is the piece to go inside the card. And while we've got these inks out, I might just as well do the inside. I might even do the envelope too. Let's find ourselves an envelope. Because that would look pretty in the mail. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to stamp it on the envelope, and then I'm going to use it stamped off on the inside of the card, so it's just a bit paler. I don't know if that'll work with the way we're doing this, where you ink on top as well. The leaves are all one stamp, yes, yeah. There are some others. These bigger leaves as the stamps. Oh, I've got them on a block already. There are some others, these two, but they're all on one, which makes it so much easier for lining things up. You haven't got to do, you know, hardly anything to line it up. Okay, let's try some of that darker ink on top as well. See if that works. Stamping it twice. Okay, so I'm just put a little bit on with my sponge dauber around those edges. Okay, and then I'll do it on the envelope first. Just line up where the peaches attach, and I'm going to quickly put it on over here as well. I don't know how this will work. Oh, it actually does still come up with the two colours, look. Oh, I'm going to be using this technique. I like it a lot. I'm easy pleased. Okay, so let's put that envelope to one side and let's put our card together. So here's my Calypso coral that I showed you earlier. 4.5 by 11 and scored at 5 1/4. I've got this piece that's going to go inside, and let's find some stamping seal. I'll pop that inside. Oh, what are you telling me? I like the darker peach. Yeah, I do too. Started giving Pfizer vaccines on Thursday. Okay, here in Alberta, they decided today that you could have, or they were recommending that you could have 2 different vaccines. I had AstraZeneca about 3 weeks ago, and I know now that they're struggling to get more AstraZeneca. So they've decided that if you had AstraZeneca, you can then have a Pfizer. But if you had Pfizer, you can choose your second vaccine as a Moderna. So I don't think I'll be eligible for mine until probably mid-June, by the time I can start to make an appointment. Okay, so there's our DSP. That's just cut 1/4 inch smaller all the way around. So it's just cut at 5 1/4 by 4. And then I have the extra little piece of Calypso coral, and that's cut at 3 by 4 1/4. And I'm just going to attach that right now. Okay, so let's attach that on there. There's only a tiny little gap. Do you see? It's just tiny, but it's actually just big enough. And I'm going to attach those. I think I'll put them on with dimensionals. So let me see where I've hidden those. You know, I have about 5 or 6 open dimensionals on my table all the time. But of course, when I'm doing something live, I can't find anything. Okay, so I'm just going to pop some on the back. I'll take these off. Now, sometimes I'll take them off with my pokey tool, because it means, you know, you don't have to sort of try and get your nail underneath. And it's a bit like shish kebab, all the little pieces stuck on a spike. Okay, and then I'm just going to put it at a little bit of an angle. And I'm going to put a little twine bow on here. I've got my twine out already. Got a whole bag of twine. Okay, so let's, oh, I didn't want to open there. There we go. And if this is really curly, what you can do is just go down with your thumb and your finger, make it straight. That just stops it being too wriggly. Let's tie a little bow. I don't know how long I want these tails yet, so I'm not going to cut both bits off. I will just find my scissors. Is it really hot there for you, Jane? It's just like a heat wave over here today. Last week we had snow, and today I think it was 28. It was too hot to take the children outside at preschool. Oof. It was slightly too warm for me. Okay, just roll that little glue dot up. Just make it a wee bit smaller. There we go. And I'm just going to put it on the branch there. And although I like long tails on here, I'm just going to cut them down a little bit. Okay. There we are. So that's our first card, and that's made with the same orientation as my swap card. Now, if you did want to step it up a little bit, what you could always do is here where we made this second one, you could put the little die over that if you wanted. But actually, if you don't have the die, it's a really easy one to cut out. The die just happens to cut all three at the same time. So you just line up. I line up with this one that's got the little pointy end, like that. And you can cut those out really easily. Pop that back before I end up with it in the Dyson vacuum like I did a couple of weeks ago. One of my dies has totally disappeared, and I do remember hearing a clunking noise when I was vacuuming, and there it probably is. Okay, so what you could do is put these on a little mini dimensional and just make them stand out a bit more. Oh, let's just find some. So just stand out just that little bit extra. See, I'm not going to stick the whole thing down at the moment, just so that you can see the difference though. So if you did just want to step it up a little bit, that's an easy way to do it. Yeah, I poked my finger on it too, Jane. Okay, so I'm going to take those off. I do like that stamping. I think that comes out really nicely. Now, my second card, I'm going to use just the same layout. I'm going to use slightly different stamps in the design, and we're going to go landscape. So I'm going to put this. Isn't that a pretty card, just with that envelope as well? So pretty. Okay, so let's find my second lot of things. So I've changed my colour scheme slightly, and I've got the Pear Pizzazz card base, and it's exactly the same. It's the 4 1/4 by 11 and scored at 5 1/2. Just squash that down with my bone folder. And I went for different paper. I'm going to use this paper, but I'm going to turn it over so that it looks like tone on tone, because I thought that looked quite nice actually, quite subtle, but it was a nice contrast. Oh, now my tape's run out, I think. Oh no, maybe not. I have a feeling that tonight, for the first Facebook Live, everything's just going to go wonky. But that's okay, because next week I'll know how to do it. I've got another one of the little Stitched So Sweetly die cutouts. And again, I've got the same Calypso coral for the, like the accent piece. Oh, it's going to be the mid-30s at the weekend. Oh, I'd be staying inside with a wet towel on my head. So it's too warm for me. I've got a little piece for inside, so we'll pop that over there. And I've got my seam binding, and we're going to use seam binding instead of twine, and I'll show you just a couple of tricks for the seam binding. Now let's find those leaves again. So I've got my Pear Pizzazz, and I'm going to stamp it full strength. And because my orientation is now going to be landscape, I'm going to change just slightly the orientation of the leaves so that they fit on really nice. Okay, I don't need the green anymore, so I'm going to put that down. And I'm going to use the flowers. Now the flower stamps are the same as the little peach stamps, where you get all three on one stamp. A little bit of fluff there. Okay, so I'm going to stamp those in Pale Papaya. I haven't tried this technique with them, where you do the two colours, but I'm just going to stamp these on. I'm not quite sure how these ones fit. I just did it sort of best fit, but I should look in the catalogue. How did they have it in the catalogue? Let's see. They've got the little one on the top left. So the little one top left. So it must go somehow like this. It just looks a little bit more difficult to line up. I don't want to stamp it wrong. I'm actually going to put mine this way. Looks a bit easier that way. Okay, so instead of doing the two colours, what I am going to do is I'm going to do the centre of each of the flowers. So let's find that little piece. I'm going to use this little spider here. So I'll pop that on a block, and I'm just going to do the darker colour with the little spider. So are you back working full time now, Jane? Oh, that looks pretty. I've only got a couple of weeks left of preschool, and then I'm hoping to travel to your neck of the woods and come and see my daughter. I haven't seen her now for 3 years, and it's time I went to see her. But of course, her wedding was cancelled, and then I hadn't been able to see her because of COVID. So I'm really hoping that we'll get away mid-month, just as soon as preschool finishes. Okay, I'm going to change my sentiment and put the happy birthday one on as well. And I'm going to put the sentiment up here at the top. I hope you can still see that and not just my head. Isn't that font pretty? Okay, so let's have that put onto our little contrast piece. Air conditioning. Yeah, I don't actually have air conditioning in the house. Usually we're okay here. I've got the fans, like the ceiling fans, and it's nice to have the door open and everything. And we overlook a golf course, and it seems to be quite breezy on the golf course, so we get a lot of nice breeze coming in. But yeah, I don't have air conditioning. I'm hoping Anne-Marie does when we go to visit her though. Oh, I should have stamped for the inside, my inside piece. Let me quickly do that. I'm going to do it full strength this time. Okay. What projects have you been making, Jane? Yeah, they are much easier to line up. You're exactly right. It makes it so much better. And there's less chance of losing things. You know, when they're all really small, I end up that I lose a lot of them. I think, oh, where's that stamp from? Look, that tiny little one. And it could be from a multitude of stamp sets, but I end up playing, you know, like 20 questions. Which set did I have out last week? What was I stamping with this little set? Oh, that's the set it comes from then. Okay. The flowers are pretty, aren't they? And you could do those flowers in any colour. I mean, they don't have to be peach flowers. That would just be pretty on its own. So, now let's find the card base, and we'll pop this one inside. Oh, school is busy, and it's all like reports and getting all the children ready for moving up to kindergarten. And today we played outside for the morning, but in the afternoon it was just much too hot, and the children get past it. They, you know, it's they get beside themselves. It's just too hot for them. So we're trying to finish things off, finish all their little workbooks off, and still make sure they're having lots of fun. But yeah, just 2 weeks left, and I can't believe how fast it's gone. The last month has just rocketed by. We were very lucky. We didn't have to close. We didn't have any closures at all. So the schools did, of course, but we were lucky we didn't. Okay, now I'm just going to pop this on an angle too. There we go. And let's see. where's my, here it is. I was just looking for the seam binding. Now this seam binding, I don't know if you've used it. Oh, you're working on birthday cards? Nice. I need to start and work on some masculine cards because I've got a lot of male birthdays in June and July. But yeah, I need to get on and do some masculine cards. But this seam binding, I find it's very, very staticky, and when I'm trying to work with it, it sticks on everything. And so what I've found is if you wet it, the static seems to disappear. Now, polite people would use a little spray of water, I think, and go down it. But I tend to lick my finger on my thumb and just go down like that, and it makes the static just instantly disappear. Now, I want my little bow on here to match my flowers. I was going to make it to match my leaves and the base, but actually I want it to match the flowers. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to find a piece of paper to rest on. Here we go. Here's my scrap papers. And I'm just going to use my blends. Now, because you watch me all the time, Jane, on Facebook, you've probably seen, not on Facebook, I beg your pardon, on my YouTube, you've probably seen that I colour this ribbon any colour I like. I don't have all the ribbons, but I know if I get a white ribbon like this, or even the white one that had the little silver trim, I know I can make it any colour I want. And I'm just going to use the dark pale papaya, and take the lid off, and then I'm just going to colour it. And it soaks through to both sides. You don't have to turn it over and do the other side, but it does go through the ribbon and onto paper. So don't do it just on your desktop if you have like a painted wood desktop or anything. I don't know how much ribbon I want, but I've coloured quite a lot. And that's it. And it's instantly dry. Oh, schools are not opening. They're closed already. Okay. Well, our schools have only just gone back after 2 weeks off. No, 3 weeks. They were doing in-home learning. But preschools and daycares are under different licensing in Alberta. And because the government wanted parents to be able to get back to work, they kept preschools and daycares open. So we were very lucky that we could stay open. Okay, now let me just... That's going to be a little bit big. I'm just going to make it a tiny bit smaller. There we go. Let's just cut those little tails off. I've probably got enough there to make another ribbon. And then we'll find a little glue dot and pop it on here. Okay. And you could put it up there. You could even put it, let's just take that off. You could put it at the side of your card over here as well. That looks pretty. But I'm just going to leave mine there because that's where I'd originally stuck it. And when I just pulled it off, a little piece of the paper tore. so mine is staying over there. Okay. So that's my 2 cards that I'm making. And then I've got one other project. Okay, so here's our 2 cards and my original card that I used as my inspiration. And so my 3rd project is going to be using something else that comes in the suite. And it's going to be, let me just go back to the suite. It's going to be these little jam jars. Now, I wasn't sure if, they have jam in there, but I wasn't sure if I would have put jam in straight away when it's hot and you're just making it, or whether they've made the jam and then spooned it in later. Because I just don't know, and I couldn't see anywhere where it spoke about what they'd done with the jam. So I'm making something totally different with mine. And you probably saw in my little picture that I had these fuzzy peaches. And the box with all the jam jars in, you get 6. And they're a really nice size. And I thought, oh, that bag will be enough for all 6 of these little jam jars. And it would have been. But I opened them yesterday, and now I'd be very lucky if I could fill 2 of them. So I'm going to use these fuzzy peaches to go in here. But before I put them in, I'm going to measure a piece of designer series paper to go round the jar. And let's see, what am I going to use? Which paper? There's so many nice papers, I just don't know which one to have. Let's have a look. No, I don't like that one. It's not very exciting, that one. And I don't actually know how much paper I need, so let's measure it. I don't have my ruler on me, like a flexible material ruler, so I'm just going to measure it with a piece of twine. I'm just going to go around there, and that's how long the twine will be going round, and that is just 7 inches. So if I make my paper about 7.5 or 7 3/4, then that would be a perfect size. And I'm going to use this dotty paper, I think. So I'll get my trimmer, and I'm just going to trim 1 strip off. Let's see how wide that is. It's 2 inches wide, so I'm going to do about 1.5 inches. I'm going to trim it right off. And I know this will be too much, but I know also, oops, I can use the last piece of the paper on another one of the jars, or on you know, making a little bit of design on a card or something. So I'm just going to put that round, and I'm going to cut it just about here. So I'm going to find my scissors. You could do this on the trimmer as well. I'm going to chop that little piece off and save it. I love this set. I didn't order it first, Jane, I must admit. I didn't think I really wanted it. Oh, look at that side with the peaches. No, I'm going with the dots. I'm going with the dots. I didn't know that I really wanted it. And then I saw one swap card with it, and I thought, oh, it's pretty. Yeah, it's okay. And I needed to finish making an order. I needed to place a little bit more of an order. And I thought, you know, I'm just going to put that in. I'm going to put that stamp set in. So I did. Well, I'm so glad that I did, because I think it's going to be one of my favourites. And the fact that it doesn't have to be peaches, you can make those flowers any colour. You could even make the fruit, you know, you can make it look like an apple, or you could make it purple. And I think it would still look gorgeous. Okay, so I'm just squashing that down. Okay, just to give us a little band all the way around. And then I'm going to pop in my few little peaches that I've left. Oh dear. If you didn't want to put peaches in, if you wanted to put a wrapped candy in, you could put something in like a Werther's. I think that would go in nicely as well. I think I could have done to put a little glue dot just underneath, just to stop that dropping down, but I'll do that next time. Okay, so I'm going to put that little lid on, and then I actually used my layering circles, and I just chose 2 of the circles so that I could decorate the top. How are we doing for time? Oh, we've got plenty of time. Okay, so I cut one out in the green, and I'm just going to pop that on the top, and then I just cut a smaller one out, still in the green, but with the little flowery side. You could do the same dotty side as well if you wanted. Okay, and then I thought I'd make a little gift tag. So I need a scrap piece of card. Okay, so I've got my scrap, and I'm going to use the big peach. So I'm going to put the big peach on here. And what I wanted to do was to cut with one of the circles from the dies that I just showed you. I just wanted to cut a circle out, And I also want to cut out a piece of Paper Pizzazz card in this same green. So I have already got those. Here's my white circle with some fluff on. Let's just see what that is. There we go. Okay. And I'm going to stamp my peach onto here. So let's put that little piece of paper down that we had. Yeah, the jam, I just wasn't sure because I didn't know if these would be airtight lids. I know they say they're food safe, but I just wasn't sure about that. Okay, and I've got the big peach stamp and the larger leaves. And I'm going to do that same technique. I'm going to stamp it in pale papaya and then just go over it with my sponge dauber. I'm going to put this right on. Oh, I didn't remember to put my sponge dauber on. Okay, I'm going to turn it over. So, sorry, I was so busy yapping. Okay, so let's get that sponge dauber. You know, I could probably stamp over the top anyway. Oh, you can see it a bit better on the bigger peach, look. You can see how the orange, the Calypso Coral is. So I could just line it up. With it being photopolymer, I could do that. And if I can't do it, then I'll turn it over. I don't like that. It's a bit blurry at the bottom, so that would bother me. So I'm just going to put it around the edge. They do look exactly like the fuzzy peach colours, don't they? Let's pop it over here. Nice. And then I'm going to do the leaves in the Pear Pizzazz. And the Pear Pizzazz ink has disappeared. Here we go. I've got so many things on my desk. Oh, I'm sorry if I've made you order something, Jane. But it really is a pretty set. Oh, isn't that nice? Oh, I'm going to use this set so much. I'll have to find a way to make masculine cards with it because that's what I need. Everybody's going to get a peach set. So I'm going to use my old Stampin' Up! Little hole punch. You could use whatever you've got. I'm going to stamp both of them together. Oh, I'm not stamping, I'm just going to make a hole, both of them together. Oh, that's too tiny. Let's find the next size up. That's too tiny for my eyes. So let's make sure it's on the same hole. There we go. That's better. And then I'm going to put some of the white. Actually, let's see what it's like with the twine. Just make a little bow with this twine. Thanks for telling me. Yeah, never mind. Never mind. It all worked in the end. So, let's tie this in a little knot. And then I'm just going to tie it around the lid, I think. Okay, and make sure the knot's at the back. Oh, it's going to be one of these that doesn't want to stand still. I'm going to put a glue dot underneath it so that I'm not chasing it round the lid. Okay, just stick it on that glue dot. There you go. Chop those little bits off. And there we go. Oh, I love that big peach. I thought I loved the little peaches, but I love that big one too. So there we are. That's my 3 projects for tonight, Jane. I've got my portrait card, my landscape card, and my little jar with fuzzy peaches in. What else could you think to put in there? Maybe we should have a competition, see who can think of something different. I do have a packet of Werther's, I think. Yeah. do have Werthers. I've actually bought these for the plane in case we can go see Anne-Marie. But they would fit in really nice, and I think the colour would be fine as well. Let's have a look. There won't be any fuzzy peaches left to take over to Anne-Marie, but there would be some Werthers left. Okay. Yep, they would fit in there nice too. They'd make nice little gifts, wouldn't they? Or a little party favours at the table and things. So, yep. So there we are. That's my projects for this evening, and I really do appreciate you coming to join me, Jane. I promised you I would do a Facebook Live, and I'm going to do every Tuesday at 6 o'clock all through the summer. So hopefully I will see you a few times over the summer, and it'd be nice to catch up. So thank you for watching and for always encouraging me, for always being there on my YouTubes and whenever I make a card. I really do appreciate it. I wish we could live nearer, and then I could get to see you as well. So thank you so much, and I'll see you all again next Tuesday. Take care. Have a great week, Jane. Bye-bye. Bye.